Thank you. Appreciate it's the last slot of the afternoon, so we're going to try and keep the energy levels up a little bit, even though ostensibly the subject might appear on the surface to be slightly dry. Basically, I'm looking here at Google Analytics and how it is a platform for showing and demonstrating the value of social media, both its indirect contribution and its direct contribution. In a quick straw poll, how many people in the audience, either on behalf of their clients or for their organizations, are aware that you use Google Analytics as a web analytics platform? Yeah, that's about right. Just as a quick free gift to the people who came to the workshop yesterday, I know we talked about building dashboards, etc. That bit.ly link at the top there, if you click on that, that gives you that nice free social media dashboard, which you can then use in Google Analytics. And if you want to put a plus sign at the end of it, you can see how many of you actually download it. So a bit of tracking there. Briefly, why Google Analytics? I mean, we've talked a lot today. We've had some fantastic speakers, talked a lot about the pertinent issues surrounding measurement, monitoring, etc. But it strikes me that actually in most organizations, the tool to allow the most robust evaluation of social media is already there. In fact, it's already collecting data, and for want of being aware of its existence and understanding how you can configure it to do that, it's already in place. There was an e-consultancy survey, which is actually 2 years ago, which suggested in the UK that 86% of British businesses had already installed Google Analytics. Doesn't mean to say that they're actually using it in any kind of sensible fashion, but it's out there, and even now I'd say it's reaching near saturation status. It's free. Well, at least to install it, it's free. The true cost, of course, comes in properly understanding how to get the best out of it. But what we're going to focus on this afternoon is, as I say, the ability to use it to understand the direct and indirect contribution of social media to your goals. As I say, two quick win areas that I think anyone can take away from today is this focus on goals and the ability to use attribution analysis in a practical way. But let's start with a typical scenario. Anybody who's ever logged into Google Analytics is almost certainly confronted by this default screen. It's basically telling you at a very, very top level where the traffic came from. And this is not a too unfamiliar sight. Search generates a hell of a lot of traffic, referral to an extent, but social is probably buried in that referral figure. Do you know, can you separate out that social referral traffic from non-social? Direct will represent a certain amount, and maybe you're doing sort of PPC campaigns, either search-based or display. And this is what tends to happen. I mentioned the HIPPO acronym earlier. Your highest paid person's opinion comes in, looks at that and goes, well, it seems obvious that we think that generating web traffic is our key metric for measuring success in digital generally. So it looks as though search and PPC is generating that traffic. Social isn't. Therefore, we're going to divert our budgets into search and PPC and perhaps downgrade our budgets on social. I think there's been various studies done over the last 12 to 18 months looking at budget allocation in digital, and there's a fairly consistent theme. When people are asked, which channels do you think have the most direct impact on your goals, whether that's B2B, B2C, government department, whatever, almost always it's either search or PPC. Sometimes they swap around, but generally it's SEO and PPC. Social media almost always comes in as a kind of small fraction of that in terms of its apparent direct impact on achieving those goals. And that leads to a bit of a disconnect because actually social almost always is contributing value, you just probably don't know it. The point is you can use Google Analytics to get that insight, but there's one key factor that you have to put in place to make that happen. In order to get access to the attribution analysis that is now in Google Analytics and has been there for some 18 months, you have to define some goals. And this has been a consistent theme coming up throughout the day, that really, unless you nail down what it is that you're ultimately seeking to achieve, you are almost certainly going to end up in a world of data puking and chart porn. Yes, endless reports that don't necessarily give you any guidance as to what should we do next, what really is working, what really is contributing real value to us achieving the goals that we have. And again, some people have a misconception that Google Analytics is a tool that's most appropriate to e-commerce sites, and yes, it works very well for it. The fact is, Google Analytics can work for any site. Again, people say, well, is it all just about the website? Well, it's pretty central to most organizations' digital marketing efforts today. I don't think there's any question that there's an awful lot of money has been spent on building websites generally. It's interesting that a question that rarely gets asked, or if it is asked is poorly defined, is what is the ultimate purpose of the site? Why does it exist in the first place? For an e-commerce site, it's fairly self-evident, but it's a lead gen site. Well, it's generating leads. The point about Google Analytics is that if that activity can occur on the site, then you can define it as a goal in Google Analytics. If you can define it as a goal, you have the ability to assign it a value. Now, in terms of whether that value is accurate or not, the point is you can do that. I'd argue you're much better off spending more time investing energy in properly defining those goals and trying to work out an accurate apportionment of value to those goals than running off and building a Facebook page to begin with. So the point is, pick the goals that correlate with activity, correlate with your overall organizational and business goals, give those goals values, define them in Google Analytics. In terms of actually setting them up, it can be done in minutes. That then opens up the ability to carry out attribution analysis. And what do we mean by that? This is your ability to understand the most valuable interactions that people have with the site that lead to the end goal that you wish to see. It's a factor of what I describe as social media's marriage problem. It's I guess, related to this whole concept of last click attribution versus first click versus accurately understanding what patterns really do deliver value. So imagine two people getting married. In this last click analogy, then the priest marrying the happy couple gets 100% of credit for the happy day occurring. What about the guy that introduced them? In the last click model, he gets no credit at all. What about the restaurant owner that laid on the meal where he proposed to her, etc., etc.? So think about it in these contexts. If we go back to that slide looking at overall traffic, social media may well not generate the same level of traffic as search. It may not be a medium that is good at closing the deal, if you will, as being the last click before the conversion. But it may be contributing value. The point is to understand whether it is or it isn't. So the good news is it's already there. It's in Google Analytics. Define at least one goal, and you get access to the most valuable interaction patterns that occur based upon the goals that you define, hopefully based upon the goals that have the most direct line of sight to your business and organizational goals. And I look at a lot of organizations' analytics, and I've looked at many over the last 18 months. Those that have started to put in place this attribution analysis invariably see a quite common pattern, namely that social is an assistive medium. It is not a closing medium. A very common interaction pattern may be somebody clicks on a link from Twitter, comes to your site, but doesn't buy anything or doesn't do anything of the things that you want them to do. But then they may return at a later date through another channel, perhaps organic search. Maybe they come back through a third channel, which might be a paid-for ad. Now, under the old last-click attribution model, that paid-for ad gets all the credit for closing the deal, or for the lead form being completed, or for that PDF being downloaded, or whatever that activity might be. Whereas it ignores the fact that social was a vital first part of a very valuable interaction pattern. And of course, if you're assigning values to those goals, then you can apportion value to that indirect contribution. As an example, working with an e-commerce site, it's that classic Hippo. They said, we're getting 75% of our traffic from search. People use 7,500 different search terms. We should put more money into SEO. A little bit of quick analysis showed that of those 7,500 keywords, only 24 of them actually resulted in people ending up buying something. The traffic from social, albeit lower in terms of absolute numbers, almost always delivered a person with a higher propensity to return via another channel and then to buy. So it completely changed that organisation's view of the contribution that the social was making, because what would have happened is they would have turned off social, and then they would have almost certainly watched a lot of their sales fall off a cliff because they hadn't appreciated the indirect contribution that social was making to it. Another quick caveat, though, to really make Google Analytics fly, you really have to make sure that you're tagging your links appropriately. Again, common misconception is that Google Analytics automatically understands where traffic comes from. It's certainly true, it's very good at identifying certain sources, it's good at handling referral traffic, it's good at handling, identifying a particular search engine and a keyword term. We won't get into the not provided debate today. But again, particularly things like email campaigns very often don't get tagged appropriately. And unfortunately, one of the kind of buckets that Google Analytics puts traffic into is direct. Now, ostensibly, direct should be only traffic that is as a result of somebody either having bookmarked a page on the site or they've actually typed the URL directly into the browser. It's also, unfortunately, the bucket that Google throws stuff if it can't work out where else to put it. And unfortunately, that then starts to kind of poison your data. I know people think this is a kind of another extra overhead to make sure that these tracking parameters are added, but it's very simple. Google very happily provides a URL builder tool that allows you to do that, and that's perfectly acceptable to use if you're just kind of parameterizing individual links. If you have to parameterize lots and lots of links, there are spreadsheets available, free spreadsheets that will allow you to carry out that process relatively quickly using various macros. See me at the end and I'll point you in the right direction. But you couple all that together, and I guess the message I want to leave you with is that if you have got Google Analytics, then you absolutely do have the basis for creating an evaluation platform for social media. If you can get access to it and start to define some goals for it, then you get access to the attribution analysis. And as a result of that, I think you truly can start to take a whole different approach to the way in which you might wish to evaluate your efforts in social media. We've talked a lot today about ROI, non-financial metrics, certain people's obsessions with top-line figures like number of followers, etc. I think we can move away from that, and we can help the hippos, if you will, to move away from their focus on those big top-line numbers, and genuinely start to couch the business case for investment in social media in such a way that we can go back and say, we can show and demonstrate both the direct and the indirect contribution that our social media activity has made. And dare I say it, we could actually define it in the context of a good old-fashioned definition of ROI, which is indeed return on investment, where the currency is money. Whether that's in a commercial sense of making money, or in a non-commercial sense of at least saving money, or at least achieving the goal and the objective within the budgets that we were assigned. So I guess, very quickly in summary, I absolutely believe that Google Analytics provides you with if not entirely free, at least a very, very inexpensive way of understanding what channels contribute real value. And again, based upon looking at the data, I admit, it's maybe not the most exhaustive sample, but it's certainly getting close to 100 businesses and 100 analytics accounts. I can hand on heart say that is such a common trend, where when the goals are defined and the attribution analysis is put in place, more often than not, you see that the contribution of social is indirect, rather than necessarily being having a direct impact on the end goal. And again, I guess that makes sense, because very often, where is social media going to be used? In a commercial sense, it's going to be used in, say, the consideration phase. Should you be using social as an awareness building tool? I'm not saying you can't, but maybe there are other channels that are better at that job of initial awareness stroke visibility building. And that what happens in the modern world, of course, is that people rarely take your brand promise at face value. They're going to sound out, what do other people think? That's when they move to social, in that consideration phase. they're also going to go to social after they've bought into your brand promise, bought your product, and actually tried it out. You know, then it circles back to say, hey, I bought this product and it actually is pretty good. It lives up to, it does what it says on the tin, or no, it doesn't. So in that sense, it's not a medium that will necessarily contribute value, as in somebody sees a tweet, clicks on a link and goes, yeah, great, I'll buy that. That's kind of not how it seems to be working in practice and in the wild. But again, to kind of then suggest, well, because it doesn't have that direct effect, therefore it hasn't got any value, we're going to downscale investment in it, I think would be unwise. But we have to have the tools to justify what really is working and what contributions they really are making indirectly or directly. That was it. I thought I'd keep it short and sweet for this last session. Any questions? Oh, yep, hang on, let's get back to it. Where are we? Oh, hang on, there we go. There's a bit.ly. As I say, put a plus sign at the end of it, and you'll be able to see how many people actually do click on that link. And whether they do it now, they do it later. Does everybody know that? If you take any bit.ly link, put the plus sign at the end of it, you get access to all the click-through data on that link. It's quite good, not only for your own URLs, but for other people's. Yes, Bill.
Hi, Philip Sheldrake. Am I right in thinking that the social assisted tracking is only valid for 30 days?
It's currently only available for 30 days, right. But Google reliably informs us that within the next couple of months, that window will expand to 90 days. So basically, you could track a 90-day window of somebody initially visiting the site, say from a tweet, and then, as long as they come back within 90 days, you can track the interaction patterns over that period. But you're absolutely right, currently it's 30, it's expanding to 90. Again, if Google's telling the truth, then I'm sure they are. That should be with us in the next couple of months.
With one other contingency, that they're using the same browser with the same cookie?
Yeah, it's all done via cookies. Clearly, somebody deletes the cookie, you don't get access to it. But then, name me a tracking tool that doesn't work on cookies, and somebody will probably tell me there are. But yeah, it's that's one of the trade-offs that makes it free. It's all based, no cookies, no tracking. Any more questions? No? Wow. Thank you.